I use my e-bike for fishing, and so I wanted to install 3 key accessories: saddlebags, a skid plate, and a front rack. Let me take you through that as quickly as possible on how I did that on my Magicycle. If you know me, you know that I like to carry a lot of stuff when I go fishing. And so that's the purpose of the saddlebags. The purpose of the front rack is to allow me to kind of balance all that stuff between my front and back. Specifically, I want to put my cast net on here, which weighs about 10 pounds. But why do I need a skid plate if I'm just riding on the beach mostly? Well, you may not have thought of this, but the key controller, the brains of the bike, are right here in this component. And I'm kind of a klutz when it comes to doing things, and I'm terrified that as I load this on the hitch in the back of my truck, I'm going to slip, I'm going to drop it, and the hitch is going to catch on the controller here and destroy it. So that's why I want the skid plate on there, because then it'll just bounce off this and then slide up, and I'll still be good to go, and my bike will still work. So let's get into doing this as quickly as possible. To put the skid plate on, I'm going to unscrew the 2 bolts that are holding the controller on. You screw this thing on, and then you wrap it around, and then it's some zip ties against the back of the frame here that's going to hold it in place. Now, the challenging thing you're going to have to work through is that the wires coming out of the bottom of the controller need to be gently pushed aside to be able to get the spacers in that are required to make sure that there's tension on this as is attached. You don't need to watch me unscrew some screws, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and we'll come back at the most complicated part. So here's the challenge in installing this. These wires right here are in the way of this screw, and so when you put the spacer in, you've got to carefully move this middle wire in particular out of the way. Okay, pro tip, run the head through this side because it's easier to manipulate the cable tie around and up, and you won't get your hands as greasy. And then it's a matter of pushing this forward before you tighten everything down so these spacers are aligned on the frame. So I will do that and then tighten these down. There we go. It's now all installed. It's nice and curved right there. So if I screw this thing up, putting my bike on the hitch, it's going to hit here and slide up and not destroy my controller. When you have all 4 screws in, be sure you press down on the top, and that'll make sure that it's level against these top 2 screws, and the rack will then be level as well. So tighten gently one on the top, then one on the bottom, and then you can tighten the rest of them. Once you get your rack installed, you need to pay attention to the routing of your cables. Without the modifications I made, there were times when this cable bundle would catch on this corner. In addition, my brake cable, which is routed up here from the manufacturer, would loop around on this side and also bind. So what I did is I put a loose cable tie right here to keep my brake cable on this side of the fork, and to make sure that there was tension on this bundle to pull it back away from the front rack, I put a loose bungee here that is just putting a little bit of pressure on there, but not much. And now the wheel turns freely all the way to either side. Now the last step is I'm going to pop this loose and put in the extension cable and then attach this to the front of the rack. And now for the last accessory, a set of nice spacey, roomy saddlebags that'll hold all the gear and maybe even more than I want to carry when I go beach fishing. And this is just a representative bag that I got from Magicycle, and it's really very simple. When you look underneath, it attaches using these Velcro straps to the front and the back. Then, once it's on, You can strap down the sides, and it has spacers inside to form the bags so they don't lose their shape and can keep all your stuff going just perfectly. So let me get these strapped down. Really not much to show you. You just put some straps on and then you're done. These back straps are the only ones that probably deserve getting shown. I'm going to go ahead and run them down around both these bars just to get a little more leeway. Crank it up, make it tight to right here, and then attach the Velcro. They're now on and ready to go, and they're just as quick and simple to take off. I can clip the sides, keep my stuff in there. I need to adjust these straps a bit, because I'm certainly not going to overload them to where they'll be popping out. Now the milk crate goes on here, and I attach it at the four corners using some either thick cable ties, or I just got some silicone wraps that I want to try out the next time I go out. One point on assembling the saddlebags is that you will get 4 of these plastic pieces, and they'll be stuck together when they show up. But note that they are different sizes. The small size goes in the front, the large size goes in the rear, and there are folds in the saddlebag where you slide these in, and that then stiffens up the bag. So you just pop it in, and now it's stiff in the front. I do the same thing here in the rear. Remember, the large one goes in the rear. Enough said. Let's go fishing.